Hey everybody, welcome to the Faith and Fandom Podcast. Hector Mirai here, coming to you with Artists Alley Aftermath, South Carolina Comicon 2021. So, on this, just to let you know, this is the first major-ish size Comic-Con done in a while. And this is my first time actually setting up as a vendor for South Carolina Comicon. I've attended the show twice before, and usually they have a unique reach for celebrities, which has been the draw for me before, because usually you can meet people there that you won't meet at other shows. For instance, I met the guy who plays Simon Tam on Firefly there. I met Barb from Stranger Things. I met the guy who is Darth Vader in Rogue One and also a villain in Doctor Who, and the dude who steals Star-Lord's headphones in Guardians of the Galaxy. So, I've met some interesting people there, and it's also a con not too far from my Charlotte friends. So usually I would try to go just for those reasons. Close to friends and interesting guests, stuff like that. And I signed up for this show in 2019 because I was in 2019 trying to do all the things heading into 2020. Like, my game plan for 2020 before the world went bonkers was that I was going to do every show possible in 2020 before, air quotes, retiring. And that didn't play out. And so this was, I want to say, the second reschedule for this show. And honestly, I don't know if I want to do as much con-wise in a year. So I thought it would be better to go ahead and do this now. And I'm glad I did. My daughter Rosa and I went to Columbia, South Carolina. Not Columbia. Well, technically I passed Columbia. We went to Greenville, South Carolina on Friday night to set up on the con floor. And because it's always better to me to set up on a distance show the day before, just for your mental health, exhaustion, physical pain, all the things. I didn't even mean to yawn on exhaustion. That's just where my body's at. I just think it's always better to set up the day before. So we went to Greenville and set up, and they did a good job spacing things out a little bit more, putting more distance between tables. I had a really spacious spot, and I was also super excited because my booth was facing like the open area where like the Ghostbusters cars were and the food court area. So I literally had wide open spaces, Dixie Chick level, right in front of me. And we also were right beside one of my artist friends named Tim Showers, who there'll be a podcast with him dropping soon. And I was beside a lady who made some really cute art, a lot of Animal Crossing stuff, like fancy purses. She had a really cool aesthetic. And could probably look around. Oh, hold on. I've got a sheet of her stickers. Doodle Sweater Cat? Yeah. I think that might be her booth was Doodle Sweater Cat. So, yep. Doodle Sweater Cat was right next to me and on the other side of Tim Showers. And we had a big old table. I want to say it was at least an 8-foot table. And wide open spaces. We went to, after we set up, We went and checked in on our hotel. We stayed at a place called My Place in Greenville, which is, I did not realize when I booked it that it was an extended stay. I generally try to avoid extended stays, hotels, just because usually they're shady. But this actually was pretty well done. And we checked in our room, and then we went to downtown Greenville and ate at Tupelo Honey, which I've eaten at Tupelo Honey only on con trips. And my first one was at Tidewater Comicon a few years back on my birthday with Vincent. But I knew my daughter would like it, so we went to Tupelo Honey and got fancy chicken and waffles and fried green tomatoes, which are going to always be my chosen side. If that's an option, I'm definitely going with the fried green tomato route. We enjoyed our dinner, and overall, just went back to our room and chilled and watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and got ready for the con for the next day. And honestly, it was we also went to Dollar Tree because the table was bigger than I thought, and with the wide open spaces, you could see a lot of the table, and I was trying to make our aesthetic look a little bit better because sometimes I'm not the most aesthetically minded person. And we got some tablecloths so we could make it a little nicer. But there was, a big line of people out the gate, ready to go. And literally within 2 minutes or so of the VIP time frame, somebody was at our booth buying book 7. Like, intentionally came to find us, which was really nice. And then it just really picked up from there. The Saturday show, in terms of sales, which if you know me, we don't gauge the value of a show on sales. But in terms of sales, it was very Heroes Con level. And I was not prepared, materials wise. I did not have enough books. I barely didn't have enough books, but I didn't have enough books. When the show was all said and done, I was out of book 5. I was out of book 3 or 4. And, so that was pretty cool. I also could have used more. I was out of BB-8 candles. I was out of D20 candles. So yeah, I ran out of things, and that was cool. But overall, the experience was just really good as far as interactions with people. There's occasional douchey people, but overall, people were just really kind and people were really cool. And it was nice to see how excited people were just to kind of be back in that environment. One guy, because you can tell when people are being critical of what you're doing. And if you've seen my fist bump stickers, the Jesus fist bumping different characters, it's obviously not for everybody. I don't know many people it is for. It was just an idea that I had and I liked it, so I ran with it. But I made a print of that and it sits on our table, and one guy's was like looking at my table and he's like, "So what's this about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's," told him the idea behind it. And I said, basically, it's just saying that you can actually be passionate about these things and get along with your own faith and people of faith. He's like, "So, don't be unexplicative to each other." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so we talked a little bit more, and I mentioned something I really liked at the Doodle Sweater Cat booth. And so that dude literally went over and bought me what I wanted, which was a Snorlax in a bowl of ramen patch. And literally just in one of the early conversations in a show, the dude, like, out of just kindness and I think, just the enjoyment of our conversation bought me a patch. I just thought it was really cool, and it just kind of set like the tone for things. But there was a lot of good responses of people that were excited to see that we were there. I'd never done a show in Greenville, South Carolina, so this was this community's first real exposure to me. And so there were a lot of like youth leaders and pastors and the same people that usually buy our stuff, the people that are curious about faith or how these things interact. And just had some really good interactions. I was giving away bracelets for free the whole time. And so that that was good. And it's just nice to see people actually like excited just to take those things. But then one of the things was that there was a lady it was her first time at a con, and she was like talking about how she'd always wanted to do it and never had done one. And I gave her some books or some extra stuff, and like she like was literally teary-eyed over that. And there was a lot of opportunities to bless people. And I don't know if it was necessarily even more than normal, but it's been so long since I've had that experience that it felt like a lot. Like it was overwhelming in a good way. The last 3 shows I've done have all been in Florence, South Carolina, and there's no knock on that. It's just a different vibe. The people in Florence, aren't surprised or excited about my stuff per se, or, that. But there's also a lot less attendance in that. So it's not a knock on the show or the community. It's just with volume, there's volume. But was able to bless some people, have some really good conversations. And overall, I was pretty wiped by like 2 or 3 on Saturday. I had already had a bigger show per se than the last 2 years. And when you map it all out, and some of my favorite artists were there that I haven't seen in a while. There's a guy who writes this book called Shepherd that I really wanted to check out, and I hadn't seen the recent issues of his stuff, and he was there. There's a lady that made these keyblades from Kingdom Hearts, and she made a really dope Mario one that had like a dry bone shell and a piranha plant, and I wanted to buy it. Like I really, really wanted to buy it. It was $85. It was reasonably priced, air quotes. And I only say air quotes because it was pure luxury. And I don't know that I don't play Kingdom Hearts. I tried 3 and it was a disappointing game, but I think everybody kind of rolled with that. And I don't need another sword. That wasn't going to stop me. But thankfully somebody bought the sword before I could get to it. Overall, it was just a really good experience. I had a good time. Friends came and visited. My friend April actually took my boxed Red Dead Redemption 2 and got it autographed by the voice actor for Arthur. My daughter got to take her Ochaka Uraraka. I'm butchering that name, but the heroine lead from My Hero Academia, and get her Funko Pop autographed. And she said she was really kind, and she was excited for me that she just got to see April O'Neil from the original Ninja Turtles movie. So it's a really good experience overall. I left Saturday feeling wiped and drained, but also really, really satisfied and accomplished in how good of a show it was. It made me miss it. It reminded me what I'd been missing about con life. Now this is the 3rd pandemic show that I've been involved in, so I'm kind of used to wearing a mask the entire time at this point. But I just gotta say, 2 like full 8-hour days in masks, is a lot. It really is. And I have a really cool mask that I like that is hard and red and looks like a Jason Hockey mask horror movie vibe. Um, but it it's presses really firmly on my face. It gives me like ingrown hairs and stuff if I wear it too long. So I didn't even bring it because I knew I'd end up wearing it, and just straight up didn't want to hurt my face. So I just stuck to straight up cloth masks with a little nose bridge. But outside of a couple people that hugged me, I really didn't feel like I had too many people like in my personal bubble. So that was nice. And the people that hugged me, I wanted to hug. So it is what it is. When the show was over, we did not get a fancy dinner because we planned to eat brunch on Sunday morning. So we went to a park called Cleveland Park in Greenville, South Carolina, and we longboarded and scootered, and we probably put at least a mile in. And if you just want to do the physics of a 300-pound man on a longboard, the amount of energy it takes to push a 300-pound man on a longboard a mile, there's a lot of workout in there. I was hurting. I was hurting from standing on concrete for 8 hours, and then I was hurting from pushing my generous portions across the earth on four wheels. So it was good experience. We were effectively tuckered out, and then we picked up some waffle fries and went home to eat our leftover chicken and waffles from Tupelo Honey. Just kind of passed out. It was just a good day. It was a good experience. Sunday morning though, we got up and we packed up our room and went out and went to Biscuit Head in Greenville, South Carolina, which if you're ever in Asheville or Greenville, I highly recommend going to Biscuit Head. Giant, fluffy, homemade biscuits. They call them cat's head biscuits because they're the size of a cat's head. And I got this biscuit called the Filthy Animal, which is a chicken breast with bacon and pimento cheese and eggs and sawmill gravy. I mean, it's a monster. And, I had to tell my daughter, I'm like, don't worry about if you can't finish this. And we're also not putting it in the car because it'll smell bad. So we loaded up on our biscuit head and headed over to the convention center, and we sat in there for a while. And one of the things I didn't realize is that there's a church called Redemption East that meets at the Greenville Convention Center. So it was weird rolling into the convention center and seeing all the church parking. And then while we got there, we went inside and I did a quick Facebook Live devotional. And then did a podcast with my friend Tim. The con was starting to have a lot more background noise by that point though, because it was really close to opening. So I don't even know how the audio is going to sound on that, and it's going to require a lot of editing. So we'll see how that plays out. But show kicked off, and one of the things I told my daughter is that the crowd that's at a con a Sunday morning, unless there's a church service, is probably not the crowd that's going to be at our booth. You'll have the people that are curious that'll stop and talk, but unless there's a church service at the con, the church crowd is not going to be coming by our booth, which by and large we don't necessarily want the church crowd at our booth. It's just a logistics thing. But Sunday was slower, but not a bad day. And was able to talk to one of the creators from the church who met there and just had some really cool conversations. I gave a Jedi cosplayer my last copy of my youth ministry book on Saturday as well. But I had friends that stopped by. Man, there's a bunch of people that stopped by. But David Powers, who, if you've read book 2 or 3, David has guest chapters in there. He and his family stopped by. My friend Nikki Strange, who has been a long time Faith and Fandom supporter, but I've never actually met her in person. She stopped by, and it was really cool to meet her and her family, or her daughter. And it was a good day. But I could by 4 o'clock on Sunday, we were all beat. We were all tired. I was about out of things, and I legitimately played Legend of Zelda Hyrule Warriors for the majority of the last 2 hours of the show. I talked with Michael Watkins about his wedding, and then I chased down a lady to give her a WandaVision print because she couldn't buy it because I was in the bathroom when she came by the booth. I know there were some notable experiences. My daughter loved a lot of what she saw and had a good time, and she gave one of the artists near us a card. Woof. Love Thy Nerd has these cards called the Stat Boost card, and it's just an encouraging card, and just say, hey, you make great things, and if you want to keep this, pass it on. And so my daughter gave it to one of the artists near us, and then that artist passed it on to other artists, and it was really cool just to see the effect of that, and just how much a little encouragement goes a really long way. So yeah, I had a really solid time at South Carolina Comicon. Literally before the last hour of the show, I stood in front of my table and reordered books because I don't have enough to do anything with right now. I don't technically have a full show booked until August. I am trying to work out doing Fayetteville Comic Con in May, but I have a wedding the same day, so I've got to check what's going on. But I don't have another show that I know I'm doing until August. But I still wanted to go ahead and books ordered. I'm also out of all of my shirts for my Lack of Faith Disturbing shirt, if you know that one. I'm out of all of those except 3X's. And out of all of my shirts, there were only 2 extra large shirts, period, left. So I'm probably not going to order shirts again until we're at another con. But yeah, it was neat to see how little there was left. But I ordered books, and that was a neat feeling. I want to especially shout out our Patreon supporters. I'm going to just go over that real quick. As I'm heading this, I want to shout them out because one of the things that I realized is that it's not about money or anything like that with that, but one of the encouraging things is that with our Patreon supporters, I was able to restock books for the next con with 2 months of our Patreon support. So instead of my family being out a huge chunk, 2 months of our Patreon supporters literally ordered or paid for all the books for the next con. But on another positive note, we were able to pay for this table and our hotel with what was sold at the booth. Now, that sounds like, well, duh, isn't that the plan, or isn't that what you're supposed to do? Y'all, this is a ministry, and I'm selling Bible studies to people at a comic book convention. We don't make bank. If I can ever pay my table back, I feel like a champion. Being able to pay off our hotel and the con, That's wonderful. And so that was a big praise for us. And like yeah, I was just like I felt really blessed in that. But take a minute, want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters: Zach Harris, Caleb Grimm, Jeanette Skaggs, Chris Poirier, Chris Cook, Jason Bullock, Christina Ray, Sarah Lewis, Rebecca Godlove, Adam Davis, Stephanie Schwann, and also our friends at Love Thy Nerd. Want to give them some love as well. Um, y'all have really helped be a buffer in this season, and I really, really greatly appreciate it. So, some things I'll say for Greenville. Um, Greenville has never. I can't say never because I don't. I've only been 3 times total. I only vended once. Greenville has never really seemed like it was super bogged down with panels. If you are a panel person, it does not appear to be your vibe. Now I don't know if that was specifically pandemic related, but I know that it never gave off that vibe in general. If you want a easy access, cool opportunity for some different celebrities, it's a good show. I want to say tickets were only like $10 just to get in, so that's a great price anyway. Like regardless for any con. There was a metric ton of good artists at this show. We were the only spiritual base table, and that's normal. But there's a lot of variety and a lot of good things. And honestly, the aesthetic looked really good this year. They had cool cars, if that's your vibe. They had a couple Ghostbuster cars. They had a mystery machine. They had some anime cars. They had the military with a video game truck. They had a blood drive. A lot of neat stuff. A lot of neat stuff going on with that. As an artist, their artist table fees are very reasonable. I don't want to like flaunt their prices or anything like that, but if you're a artist or someone wanting to, this is one of the bigger shows for this price. This is about, for a 2-day show, this is half the cost of Heroes Con or Galaxy Con or some of these other big shows. So this is about half the price of a big show. Good prices for that. As a in and out thing, easy access in terms of load in, load out. They worked really well with giving you opportunities to be ready, especially if you came in the day before. And we strapped everything to the we strapped everything to my cart and rolled it all out in one go. And we just rolled our cart down the hill. We never even brought our car back up. So, drive home. We just got some Wendy's and some Starbucks and just burned through it. But if you've listened to my stuff before or talked to me, I struggle emotionally with highs and lows, and cons are this big validating experience of praise and recognition and feeling like you're important, and like there's all this flood of emotions that kind of comes with a good show at a con. Even though it's not about me, it's nice to be on the positive end of like encouragement. But then the downside of it is when you get that much from that many people, it makes the quieter and the loneliness lonelier. And somewhere like in the last 2 hours of the car ride, I got super emo. Like super emo, and a couple sad songs came across the shuffle on my Zune, and I was like, oh man, I'm on my feels. And but it was good. Came home, threw all the stuff back in the house, and kind of started over. So South Carolina Comic Con was a success in all the boxes that you could check. The only thing I think that would have been cooler would have been to have a panel for Faith and Fandom or a Sunday morning church service. But I also don't know that that was the vibe, or really, having a geek church service is cool, but there was literally a church meeting at the convention center. So if people wanted that experience, they totally had the opportunity. It is what it is. But I'm totally grateful for that. So, once again, thanks to my Patreon supporters for caring enough about this ministry to keep funding it, especially in a weird season. For my friends that came to visit, I want to give a big shout out to my daughter Rosa for being such a, legitimately, I wouldn't have made it through the first rush of the show had my daughter not been there. So crazy grateful for her and all that she's done. And she made cons a lot more fun too, and kept me grounded, which I really appreciate. So that's all I got. I'm a bounce. And considering this is the first Artist Alley Aftermath of 2021, and I don't necessarily know when the next one will be. Hopefully it'll be after Greenville or Fayetteville coming up. But either way, thanks for caring. Thanks for listening. And I'm praying for y'all. Keep praying for me. And I hope to see you in Artist Alley.